Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to take you through how I managed to structure the project, which was almost going into a stoppage or early exit, if I can put it that way. So this video is part of a series of the episodes that I'm creating. If you have not seen my earlier episodes, you can check episode number 1, which is the first one, and this is the second one, which is episode number 2. And there are going to be subsequent episodes, I think about 15 of them. I would encourage you to watch so that you appreciate how I saved this banking project from collapse and all the way up to how we managed to successfully finish and implement the project. So I'm going to take you through how I structured the project in such a way that it formed the foundation for success, and at the end we're able to deliver the project, we're able to deliver the objectives of the project, we're able also to deliver the goals of the project. So let's dive in. Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Oscar Bira. I'm a certified program and project manager. In this video, I'm going to take you through the concept of structuring a project. I've done this when I was helping a project which was almost going into collapse, and this is what I'm going to share with you in this video. So this project has been running for almost 2 years, but there wasn't much progress in terms of how the project was supposed to be implemented and also delivered. So when I joined this project, when it had already started, I went through the documentation, and fortunately most of the documentation was available. For example, the RFP, which is a request for proposal from vendors, the statement of work, which is normally called SOW, was also in place. So it was very clear to me in terms of what were the requirements from the client and what the project was supposed to deliver. So with that clarity, the first thing I requested the people or the project manager from the bank side, me I was from the vendor side, was the project structure on both ends. I'm telling you, I was shocked. There was no project structure. That was my first time to see a project running that far without any proper structure. So you might be asking, what does a proper structure mean for a project? I will take you through quickly in the next 2 minutes or so on how a well-structured program looks like. So a well-structured program normally has a very clear and straightforward structure. I'm going to take you through this on my computer so that at least you understand what it means. I hope you have enjoyed the video so far. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe button, and the notification button so that you are the first person to be notified each time a new video is uploaded on this channel. It will also help the channel to grow. It will also help the channel to produce more videos like this one. Normally, a project is structured as follows. You have the topmost layer, which is called the project board. Okay, it's called the project board. So project board is the highest authority. So project board is the highest authority in a project. Okay, all the decisions, they are made by the project board. Then below the project board, you normally have what is called a change board, CCB, which is a change board. This is how most projects are structured. So the purpose of the change board is to make sure that all the changes that are coming into the project, they are also approved after being deemed necessary. They are also approved, but the change board, except for changes, the rest will be ratified by the project board. So in actual fact, the change board actually reports to project board. Okay, then after the project board, in some cases you find you also have the project directors. So the purpose of the project directors is to make quick decisions that do not need a full board to make that decision. So what you end up with is a project director. In most cases, you have one from the client side or the organization, and then you also have one from the vendor side. Okay, but from the project point of view, on the project board, you normally have 3 very important roles. The first one is the sponsor. Normally, the sponsor is the one who takes care of the project, the one who has got the project at heart. And then you have a senior user. Okay, this might be from one organization or it can be from many organizations. But in most cases, they select one supplier, but in most cases, they select one senior user to represent all the other vendors. Then the other one is users. Then the next one is senior supplier. So this one represents the suppliers who are going to provide service to the project. Probably they're going to be involved in creating some products or creating some deliverables in a project. Even if there are so many, they normally select one to represent them. So after the project directors, you start having a project manager. Project manager's role is very, very important. This is like the pilot of the project. Project manager runs the project on a daily basis. So after the project manager, the second layer has got so many participants. We normally call it team leads. Others, they want to call them team managers. So this layer is very important. They also help to reduce the amount of work to be done by the project manager in terms of managing the teams. So you have your team managers or team leaders. Then after that, you also have multiple, depending on the type of the project and also on the industry of the project. So you have multiple members belonging to different teams. Okay. Say, for example, if it was a software project, you are going to mostly have developers. You are also going to have designers, system designers, even testers as part of the teams. So once you have these ones as part of the teams, you also have a team manager for testers, team manager for developers, and then team manager for system designers. Then you have team members. Team members also belong to these categories. If it's a team member for developers, team member for testers, and also team member for designers. So basically, these are the layers. We have about one, can I say two, 1 or 1.1, 1.2, and then we have layer number 2, layer number 3, and then layer number 4. So basically, so we were changing an old system, banking system, into a new banking system. So it was very apparent that we need developers to develop the new functionality, or also to customize what the customer was asking for in the RFP. So I had to structure it this way. Since the project board was already existing, I only started my structure at project manager level, which was me. So project manager, it was me. And then below that, I had to form a number of work streams. I want to call them work streams. So the first work stream, it was for developers. This was very important for me to be able to have people who are going to customize based on the requirements, and also to have people who are going to be able to develop even new functionality that might be required by the client. Functional developers are very, very important. These are the developers who are basically responsible for the functionality of the system. For example, you want to do account opening, and this new system might not be exactly 100% satisfactory in terms of the requirements from the bank. So you might need a bit of some customization, especially the business rules. They normally differ from bank to bank, environment to environment, country to country, regulator to regulator. So that kind of customization, you need developers. So what I did was to assign developers. Unfortunately, there were so many customizations to be done. So what I had to do was to look back at the customizations, and then I had to get more developers to assist. I'm telling you, I ended up with 15 developers, specifically for the functionality, because they were covering all the other work streams, which we're going to cover in this video. If you think that was too much, I'm telling you, that is how I managed to save the project. But your views are also very important. Let me know in the comment section. But I ended up with 15 developers specifically for functional development only. That means they were cutting across the teller, they were cutting across accounts, customer opening, loans and deposits, financial crime management, we normally call it FCM, the trade finance, payments, and so on and so forth. So I end up with 15. It depends on the project customization level that is expected from the client. But in most cases, when I'm moving from old system to the new one, it is a big customer like the one I was working on. It was a very big bank. So therefore, the customization was a bit on the high side. But I've done also some small banks. You find the customizations are not so much. You only need maybe 5 or 6 functional developers. Then you're good to go. So the second work stream, it was on data migration. You might want to call it data migration. It's the same thing. So on data migration, I also had another work stream. This was responsible for transforming the data from the old system into the new system. So that process on its own, I realized it was not part of the structure. When I checked with the team, which was there already, especially from the bank side, this was actually being deferred to almost 2 or 3 weeks before go live, which was also wrong. So I remember you are moving from an old system to a new one, which means the bank has been operating before you decide to implement this project. So they have an old system which is containing the old information or the old data that we have. When I was restructuring the project, one important work stream which I identified is data migration. I'm telling you, when you move from old system to a new one, you need a data migration process to be done to move from one old system to the new system. Why are we doing that? You do not want your customers to start having new information, for example, new account numbers, new customer numbers, new deal numbers, new loan numbers. You can't do that. So you want to make sure that you take the actual number of accounts, number of customer records, number of loans, number of treasury deals that we have from the old system, you take it to the new system. So how do we do that? We do that through a process called data migration. Data migration is nothing. You're just moving information from one source to a destination. So in this case, your source is the old system to the new system. So that is what we're calling data migration. So you might be asking yourself, where do I start from? I've also created a video on specifically on data migration, the process and everything that you need. It's also part of the next episode, although it becomes very specific to the data migration for a banking system. So there are so many sources that you can use for data migration. It might even come from Excel sheets on top of the old banking system or the legacy banking system you're running. It might even come from physical documents. Probably you want to capture the information in the new system, or you want to scan the information into the new system. So that work stream is quite important, very, very important. It has got 3 stages. I'm going to show you. So the first stage is what we call extraction, which means you want to extract from the old system. Then the next stage, which is in the middle, is the what we call the staging area. So what is the purpose of the staging area? After extracting, you want to stage the information on the data so that you're able to consume it in the new system. In most cases, these systems, the way they are structured in the new system, they normally have different structures in terms of data. So the purpose of the staging area is to transform the old system data into the new format, and then you upload it into the new system. So that is very, very important. So what I did in this project to make it successful, I first appointed a workstream lead, and that is very, very important for you to do. These workstreams I'm talking about, or the structure I'm talking about, you need a workstream lead for each and every workstream. I don't call them sections, I want to call them workstreams. So these are like specialized areas you need to assign people to work on in order to achieve the main objective of the bank, which is to move from old system to the new one. So you need a workstream lead. Then one thing I did also is I had 3 data migration developers. You might be asking yourself, why do you need a developer during data migration? You need them at 3 stages of data migration. Remember, I've spoken about 3 stages. Extraction, you need a developer, either who is going to do what is called technically SQL structured query language to extract from the old system, or even in some cases to develop some programs using any programming language to extract the data from the old system to the new system. Then also on the staging area, you also need other developers who are going to be able to transform the old data system, who are going to be able to transform the data from the old system to the staging area. Then you also need developers who are aware of the new system, who can also move the data from staging area to the new system. So I had workstream leads for data migration, as you can see like this, and then also I had 3 developers, as you can see from the structure. So that is one workstream aside. I hope you have enjoyed the video so far. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe button, and the notification button so that you are the first person to be notified each time a new video is uploaded on this channel. It will also help the channel to grow. It will also help the channel to produce more videos like this one. So the next structure which I had for this banking project, it was retail. So in a banking situation, you also have retail function. So what do we mean by this? The retail function, in most cases, you have accounts, okay, to manage individual accounts, and also you also have customer details. They have to be captured. You also have checks. You have teller functions. That is for your cash withdrawal and cash deposits. You also need that. So it's actually, there are so many modules that are used here. We'll discuss them as we go. So retail is also divided into two sections. There is retail corporate, and then there is retail individual. Actually, there are three with retail government. So you might be asking yourself, what does a retail mean? In most cases, retail in banking, retail in the banking setup, they deal with individuals. They also deal with governments. They also deal with corporates. So what it means is, as retail, they sell the end products to their customers, banking customers. So I realized there was a need to do that. And in most cases, you find retail is just broader. Then inside you have individual and also you have corporate. But in some banks I've seen, they also make it very clear in terms of demarcation. You have a retail corporate, you have retail individual. But in this case, it was all together. So I created one workstream with a workstream lead to lead that retail, which means anything to do with teller, anything to do with checks, anything to do with the mandates, anything to do with accounts, customer, sending orders, sweeps, and so on and so forth. So I created a workstream which I called retail, but it has two branches: corporates, which means businesses or companies, and then individuals, which means individual bankers. Like for example, yourself, if you are not registering as a company, you register as an individual. So I also created that one. And I would suggest that if you are to run any banking system project implementation, make sure you have the retail workstream, which means that workstream is specifically responsible for the implementation of retail modules, customer, account, teller, and so on and so forth. So that was very, very important. And it also helped to save, and also it also helps to make the project successful. I would advise you do the same. The next workstream I had is for credit. So as a banking system, obviously there must be modules to do with credit, that is lending. So lending is also in two parts, for corporates, okay, and also for individuals. So that was a workstream on its own. Credit, it's nothing other than a section that is responsible for lending of money to different customers of the bank. Mostly the individuals, corporates, or even companies. So I created another workstream called credit. And this credit also is also similar to retail. I talked about retail before. So what it means is you have lending, but you have individual and also corporate. So I also had a workstream like that with individual members within the workstream. For example, if it's lending corporates, I also had a business person for lending corporates, and also for lending retail, I also had a business person. So it was a workstream on its own, just to save on the lending. There's no bank this day and age that survives without lending. So that workstream was very important. I could see it after joining the project that kind of structure was not there. And definitely it was going to affect the running of the project. So to make it successful, I had to create that workstream for credit. And I'll suggest that if you are to implement or run any project, make sure that you are also implementing the lending or the credit side of the project. The next workstream was on trade finance. So, as a banking institution, they also support international payments and delivery, which we're calling trade. So this was also another workstream. So if you are new to some of these terms, you might be asking yourself, what is it Oscar is referring to as trade finance? I can explain to you. Businesses are still buying a lot of products. Either it could be raw material, it could be a finished product, it could be a semi-finished product, and so on and so forth, from all over the world. Remember, we are now in a global village. But some of these suppliers, they are not trusting, or there's no trust between the supplier and the buyer. So they normally go to the bank, ask for them to facilitate the transaction, make payments internationally, and then receive goods. So I don't want to give you a lecture on trade finance, but in a nutshell, that is the responsibility of that workstream. And the software which I was implementing, it had modules specifically to serve the trade finance. So I also had a workstream on that. It's actually a big module in terms of banking software. But the good thing about it is you implement once, and most international trades is standard. So once you get it right, that's it. So I ended up only with 2 members, the workstream lead and one who was also running around in case there's something small or simple that needs to be done. So that workstream was very important. I set it up. I also advise that you also set up the same workstream. It's quite important to segregate it from the other workstreams. So the next workstream is also one of the most important workstreams in the financial environment these days. It's called Financial Crime Management, or FCM in short. Then the next one, which I had, it was on FCM, which is normally called Financial Crime Management. So Financial Crime Management was also another workstream I had. So what this workstream is mainly responsible for is, say for example, you want to open an account with the bank. They are going to request you to complete some form either online or physical. It depends on how advanced the bank is and the appetite of the bank to be digital. So assuming it's digital, which means you go to a portal or website, you complete your information. As you complete your information, the financial crime system will check your details. For example, your name, your national ID. There are so many fields which are checked just to make sure that you are fit to open the account with the bank. If your name, for whatever reasons, you've done something else and it has been flagged, there's going to be a bank employee who's going to make an additional decision to see if they have to request for additional documents, or probably they might even request to have a meeting or interview with the client just to make sure that they are taking the right client for their business. So there are also modules specific for that in any banking software. And in this case, we had a module called FCM, Financial Crime Management. So in that project, I wanted someone who was going to lead it, because I'd gone through the requirements, I'd gone through the modules the bank they purchased, and FCM was one of them. So I assigned the resources to be responsible for that. But what I didn't do was to assign a developer, because I realized I can still utilize the other developers that I have. Remember, I told you I had 15 functional developers. But at least I wanted someone with a business idea to manage that. And to be honest with you, except for the integration, the rest of the other work streams must be a BA or business analyst. So when I joined the project, I realized I needed these business analysts. I brought in very experienced people, 20, 30, 15 years experience. So those are the ones I was putting in those workstream as workstream leads. Because you want someone who is able to talk to the client. You want someone who's going to be able to make a judgment whether the requirement from the client is feasible or not. You also want someone who's experienced, who is able to advise the client in terms of what is the best practice, what works, what doesn't work. So my advice is, look for a business analyst who is experienced in that area. Then we also had what was called ethical banking. In some cases, they want to call it, this is ethical banking. This is the banking functionality where you don't normally charge interest. So as a bank, one thing I also realized is they bought a module for what they call ethical banking. So in most cases, ethical banking, they are talking of many products which do not normally pay interest. Those kind of products, they are also common in most societies, where the members, they want to deposit their money, but they don't expect interest to be paid to them. But to the bank, that is very important, because they are saving money, which they can use to lend and probably make more money from that. So that is also very important. So I also had one. That one, normally the modules are not so many. You just need someone who is able to set up, depending on the type of banking system you're running. For the one I was running, I only wanted someone who was capable of I only wanted someone who was capable of setting up the accounting and also setting up the charges and so on and so forth. So I only had one person, and I knew that was going to help me to deliver the project. Then, the next work stream is one of the most important work streams you can ever have in a project that is for a bank. I called it integration. Some they want to call it channel, but I believe it's the same thing. Then the next one, it was to do with integrations. This is a very important work stream when you're implementing a banking project. The purpose of integration, I think most of you, they have accounts with some banks, and definitely there are cases where you receive SMS or short message, which tells you that there was either credit or a debit into your account. So that is done through integration, which means there are two systems, which is the core banking system and also the channels. Some of you have done internet banking, some of you have done mobile banking. All these, they have to communicate with the core banking system, which is the CBS. So there must be a workstream which should be responsible for this. So I created one. It was not there also at that particular point. So what do you mean? Normally these days, most of the banks is done through what they call channels or integration. So you might be asking yourself, what is Oscar talking about in terms of channels? For example, most people, they are now used to internet banking. That is a channel, which means you have another system of internet banking running here. It must communicate with the banking system or core banking system. So that is what I'm calling integration. So I required developers to develop this integration so that these two systems can talk to each other. You've heard about mobile banking also. So that is also another channel, which means there is a core banking system, and we have different routes. We have different channels which are bringing in transactions into the core banking system. So if I give you those examples, or maybe one of the easiest one, which most of you guys have been using, is the ATM channel. So transactions, they come through ATM and then to the core banking system. So after going through the requirements, like I said in my episode 1, I've also done another episode. You can also check. Like I said in the previous episode, I went through the documentation. I know what was there. I know what was agreed there. So what it means is I had to create that workstream called integration. Just being responsible for making sure that the core banking system that we were implementing is able to talk to different channels, mobile banking, internet banking, ATMs, and so on and so forth. So we did that. And I also assigned the workstream lead. This is one of the areas where we had so many channels, so definitely I wanted more manpower. So I ended up with about 20 resources, just responsible for integration. You might be asking yourself, 20, Oscar, this is too much. I'm telling you, it's not too much. Considering the number of channels which we had more than 65 channels. Can you imagine? We had 65 channels, which means we had also some transactions going to the regulator. We also have some transactions going to the government. We also have some international payments like SWIFT and so on and so forth. So it's not a big number. But my advice is, you're supposed to make a judgment. You cannot just go in and then you put a lot of developers. No, that's not the right way to do it as a project manager. You make a judgment considering the number of channels that you have. Most likely, how many developers do you need? I would suggest that you need 25% of that. I know you might not agree with me. Let me know in the comment section below. But from my experience, 25% of the number of channels, I found it to work. So this is not like a hypothesis. It's something I've implemented, I'm still implementing, and it's still working, and it was working. So my advice is just take 25%. Say, for example, you have 30 channels. So obviously, if you want to take 25% of that, we are talking about almost seven developers. So you should have 7 developers specifically for channels. So I created that workstream with the workstream leads and then individual developers assigned to individual channels. That was part of the foundation to make sure that the project is successful. And I believe you can also make it successful if you follow that structure. Then, the next workstream, it was on finance. This is a very important workstream also in this structure. So I had to create one workstream for finance. The purpose of this was to configure the GL and the trial balance of the bank. All right. So having all these work streams was very important. You need a finance work stream. The purpose of the finance work stream is to make sure as you move the information from our old system to the new one, you are taking everything. So what I did was to create a work stream for finance. This work stream is responsible for the general ledger to make sure everything is balancing from the old system to the new one. They're also responsible for the trial balance to make sure everything is moving from the old system to the new system. And also just to make sure that all the financial information is also transformed from the old system to the new one. So I created that work stream, and I also put a work stream lead. Fortunately, for most banking projects, finance does not have so many members in terms of work streams. So I only had the work stream lead and 2 more finance guys just to support the whole process. So I can tell you that actually helped to transform, because besides involving data migration, as I said earlier, they are also involved in the configuration of the new system, the general ledger, so that the bank is able to report either internally or even to the central bank. So that was the second work stream that I created. So after creating the work streams, the next stage I had to do was to allocate work stream leaders. So I had quite a number of experienced members in the project. So I had to allocate them one by one to each and every work stream that I had created, based on their experience, based on their skills also. So I did that, and I was also short. So I had to bring in new members. So when I brought in new members, I also end up having the lead technical person. So I also had the lead technical person. This was very important work stream. This person was responsible for anything technical, from creation of environments and also configurations, or any technical configurations that might be required on the project. You might be asking, Oscar, what is this for? Okay, so when I'm implementing a banking project, what I've seen over the years is you need someone who's going to be very skilled and experienced technically. If anyone wants anything technical, they should be able to approach that specific individual. That individual is also responsible for managing the technical environment of the project. For example, the servers that are going to store the information, assuming it's not on the cloud. Most banks, they are not comfortable having their information on the cloud, especially in East Africa, where I was implementing this project. So they had the infrastructure within their premises. This is also the person who is responsible in making sure that things like backups of the system is also managed, restore of the system, fine-tuning of the system, performance tuning of the system. So from my experience, I knew when I joined this project that you need that person. So I created one work stream. I only assigned 2 people in that work stream, the lead and also another one who was assisting the lead. So that is very important if you're running a project for a bank. You should be able to assign a lead technical architect to manage the technical side of the project. Remember, I was talking about BAs, business analysts. These are for the business side. This guy is for technical. So anything technical is the one to approve, is the one to support, and in some cases is the one to implement. So you need that person, and you need that work stream. Make sure that is also set up. It helped me to make sure I recovered this project. It helped me to save this project. I believe it should help you to save your current project or to save your future projects. So I now had about 10 work streams, which I thought that was a very good organization or structure to run a bank of that size or project of that size until completion. So after creating the work streams, attaching work stream leaders, then I also had to do another process of assigning individual members to specific work streams. For example, developers under developers, also retail under retail, lending under retail, lending under lending, then also finance under finance, financial crime management under financial crime management, ethical under ethical banking process. So with that solid structure, I could see that we were heading for success. Even when I presented the same structure to the client, which was the bank, they were actually shocked that even for 2 years, they were not running the project in that structured way. So my special request to them was they should now, from their end as a client, also fit into the structure that I had created, because the structure that I had created, the basis, was the modules that we have in the core banking system, based on my experience. I've been in this field for almost 20 years. So based on my experience, the modules, and also based on my experience, the most important sectors that you should have, the most important work streams that you should have. So the bank also managed to fit into that structure. However, they requested that they also need 2 more structures from the bank side. 2, I think 3 more structures from the bank side. So the additional structures, which I had to put, they are, the first one was audit, and then the second one was also risk. This was from the client side. And then the third one, which was also very important, was reconciliation. And please, listen to me. Most project managers who are implementing banking projects, they normally make this mistake. It's called reconciliation. You need a work stream that is going to be able to reconcile information as it moves from old system to the new system. And as it moves from old system to the staging area, from staging area to the new system. That is very, very important. Even going forward, assuming it's 2 days or 3 days, when you are done or you have gone live with the system, you get rid of this old system. And then you're now focusing on the new system. As you focus on the new system, especially during the first days, users are not yet used to the system. They'll start posting transactions in different accounts, for example, suspense account, individual accounts, or even transactions coming through the channels. Remember I spoke about channels. They are hitting the wrong transactions. They are hitting the wrong suspense account. So you also need to correct that. How do you correct? You first need to reconcile what went in, what went out, what was supposed to go in, which went out, and so on and so forth. So reconciliation is very, very important. I set up a reconciliation workstream that was specifically to help to reconcile what is coming from old to new system. So the workstream, it had workstream leads from the bank side, because reconciliation mostly is the bank side. But I also had my people supporting that process. So you need that workstream as you go through. So I ended up with about 15 workstreams, but that was very, very important as a start. We have workstreams, and also we have structures. We have workstream leads or team managers, and we also have team members. So that was a solid foundation to deliver the project. My advice is, the way I've approached this is because already there were members, the project was already running. So it was easier for me to fit in based on the skills that we have. But in most cases, as a project manager, what you normally face is you're starting a project. It has not been started by anyone else. So when you're starting a project, it will be very difficult for you to put exactly the actual team members' names. But my advice is, for a banking project, you should maintain this structure, which I've implemented. You must maintain this structure in such a way that you start with it from the beginning all the way up to the end. What you're only going to do differently from what I've done is to, after the structure, you now need to look for resources. You create what is called the resource matrix. You now need to look for resources which you are going to fit based on the structure. But for me, the members were already there, but there was no structure. Each morning, someone is being asked to do 1 or 2 things. The following day, another one. I want to call it popcorn approach, which was very dangerous and not very helpful to the project. So after restructuring the project, I could see progress. Then from that point onwards, I moved on with the client to a stage of initialization. So to initialize this project, you might be wondering, why did you start with the structure and not initialization? It is also very important that when you go to initialization of the project, you also understand what is project initiation. I've done a video on project initiation. You might also be interested in watching that video. So, in the project initiation stage, this is where we're going to talk about quality strategy document, risk strategy document, communication strategy document, your project plan. This is where you're going to create a detailed project plan. So for you to do that, I've seen so many project managers making mistakes. They think to create a project plan, you close yourself into some room for another week or 3 days or 4 days, then you come out with a very superior project plan. That is a big mistake. Normally, no one has got monopoly over knowledge. So what is very important now, based on the structure that I've discussed earlier, and in most cases, from the client side, you already have members. Probably from the vendor side, you have not yet assigned members, but in my case, I already had members. So I requested the client for about 3 weeks. We went offsite the project just to do planning. And how were we doing this planning? We were using those workstreams. The workstream managers or leaders, they have a lot of experience. So those are the members we were using to plan the project. It was like replanning. Because remember I told you the project was running for almost 2 years. So we had to put all that aside and said, guys, we need to start again. So we started with the workstream leads, workstream managers, managing everything. And then we consolidated into one project. I want to call it sub-projects. So let's go to my computer. I'm going to explain to you what I mean by sub-plans. So, normally planning in a project has got 3 stages. Stage number 1 is the overall project plan. That is the highest. Okay? Then, after project plan, the second one, you have what is called stage plans. And then, after stage plan, you now have what is called team plans. So, these are normally the 3 levels of planning that we have in a project. If you want to understand more about project planning, I've also done a video on project planning. You can also check it on my channel to appreciate what is project planning. I hope you have enjoyed the video so far. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe button, and the notification button so that you are the first person to be notified each time a new video is uploaded on this channel. It will also help the channel to grow. It will also help the channel to produce more videos like this one. So this is how I structured the project for success. So in the next series, which I encourage you to watch, I'm going to take you through how I also managed to go through the initiation stage of the project, although it was already in flight, but most of the things were not done properly, like the communication, the quality, and also risk management, configuration strategy. So you want me to create more videos like this one, or you want some additional information on what we've discussed on this video, you can reach out to me, or you can let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for watching.